Hello, welcome to another edition of FM Corner. I'm Danny Koontz, your host. Today, we're going to talk about core skills for a facility manager. Lots of folks in facility management, many of which didn't even choose that to really be their job. Lots of folks, kind of like I did, was working for a company and they needed somebody in facilities and asked them, are you ready? Would you like to take a look at this job? And people have just kind of morphed into being a facility manager, but that really wasn't their goal to start with. So what are the cores for a good facility manager or a young facility manager to work on? First is toughness. Toughness because you're going to be dealing with restaurants and they're going to have problems. Your ability to get those fixed, get them taken care of quickly for the right amount of money, so on and so forth, are critical. Those don't always happen. That's where toughness comes in. Can you handle the restaurant managers being really agitated because something didn't go right? Can you try to be that voice of reason in the middle between the restaurant and between the vendor to find out what really happened and what needs to be done? Obviously, you have to get the equipment fixed, and it's typically someone was out, they did the work, now we have another problem, the vendor needs to come back, or it's after the work has been done and there's a question on the billing side. You got to hang in there in the middle. You will never in your career as a facility manager do enough stuff fast enough for the restaurants that you serve. You never will, but you work at it. And you have to have the toughness to push back occasionally, push back to your vendor, whoever that is, to get the work done, and to be able to handle that when you get the criticism or whatever, whether it's about a vendor that you picked to do work, or it's about you personally or your team on what you've done. Second is a quick thinker. No plan in facilities ever goes the way that you want it. Every day changes, every minute changes. What top 5 items you had on your board to work on today, probably between 7:30 and 8 o'clock got changed because something needed to be done. Somebody needed a report. There was a meeting you didn't know you were supposed to go attend. You had 2 problems overnight in your restaurant, say water heaters or whatever they may be, and you got to figure out what to do. So you got to be a quick thinker and have that ability to adapt. Many times as you grow through that career as well, you're going to have situations where a piece of equipment's broken. Here's how much it costs to fix it. Here's how much a new one is. You got 10 minutes to make a call. You either got to get a new one on order or you got to give the approval to get the other one fixed. And you got a couple of minutes. Make a call. Quick thinker. How quick do you process? How quick can you come to a decision? Are you going to make some wrong ones? Yes, you absolutely are. But you have to take what information you can get, what's critically important, date of the lease, how many repairs have been done in the last 90 days, something like that. You know, what's the availability of getting the equipment fixed versus the new equipment showing up, timeline. All those things factor into your decision. Whatever you do, got to be a quick thinker. Got to think on your feet really quick. Try always to be a step ahead. Third is you're trusted. So when that customer, your customer, typically the restaurant people call you, they trust that the decision that you will make is good. They may not agree. That's part of it. You may say repair it and they want a new one, but you have to explain the reasons why you made the decision that you did. Over time, they trust that you're making the right decision for the company, and their location is one location inside the company. So you're making that best decision for what's best for the company. It may be different than what they think, but they trust your opinion. So you have to be trusted. Next one's communication. Goes without saying. You have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to explain what's going on. You have to be able to hold your ground when needs to be. And then if the opportunity presents yourself, educate. That's the other part of communication. Educate to the customer, typically the person in the restaurant, what you're trying to do and how they can help you moving forward. The next, financial skills. Typically, you're going to have a budget. Probably going to be a pretty good sized budget. If operations controls R&M, you're going to help them with their budget. So you have to have good financial skills. How do I manage to a budget and how do I hit the target numbers that the company's asking for. So you have to have financial skills. You don't have to be an accountant, but you have to know about how things work inside accounting and different accounts or whatever is being used. How do you budget for that? And then how do you make sure at the end of the year you're hitting that target budget number? Because you can get all the equipment, all the repairs in the world done every year. But if you go over that budget year after year, there will be issues you'll have to respond to. So you have to get it all fixed, but you have to do it inside the budget that you're given. Next is knowledge of the system, inside and out. It's probably one of the reasons, if your background's not in facilities, you were chosen to be a facility manager or learn to be one, because you have knowledge of the company inside and out. You know how operations works, you know how the company support center works in the different departments and how those play to each other. And then you have to be able to manage that, but it's done because of your knowledge. You know what happens. It's also really good to know the vendor network that you're working with, ins and outs of their business as well. You know, many times you hear a restaurant manager say, I called in first at 7 o'clock. Why am I not the first call? Well, you have to know the vendor's reasonings, that they had calls that were already scheduled and they had calls that were left over from the day before that couldn't have been taken care of, and now they have to be slotted in as well. So even though this person called first thing in the morning, there were already 15, 20, 25 calls on the board. You have to explain that because the customer doesn't think that way. I called in early, that means you should be here. So you have to explain that to them to help give your vendors a fighting chance to get the work done correctly. And last, you got to learn how to use your lessons learned. And you do that to keep from making that mistake moving forward. What have you learned throughout your journey as a facility manager? What mistakes did you make so that you can trigger those in your mind? As you move forward, you don't make that same mistake. Making mistakes are part of life. And as a facility manager, the opportunity is to make them more often probably than not, because you always don't have all the information. But the real issue is to learn, when I make this type of mistake, that the next time I'm faced with it, I don't make it again. That's the problem, is making the same mistake over. So learn from your mistakes and use them as you move forward. Those are 7 items that should be a core skill for a facility manager. So as you're learning or as you're new and you're asking people, what do I need to know? Those are 7 things that you can look at or speak to them about that will help them during their growth of the skills that they need to be a good facility manager. That's our episode today. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you next week.